What's going on, peeps? It's Wrath here, hanging out today. We're going to talk a little bit about Idle Heroes. So, recently, July the 4th, I believe, American Independence Day, we had an update roll out that targeted Starry Gems, essentially targeting the black market, right? Starry Gem farmers. That was the entire purpose of the update, and it's got a lot of people upset. And I would say, this is just my take on it, they don't really have a good reason to be upset. Don't worry, I will defend my position. I'm not just going to say that and be like, ha ha ha, nerds. We're going to talk about it. So, the main issues I've seen raised are essentially two, right? You have one issue that is more, I can't afford heroes anymore because the black market was the only way that I could get Starry Gems to buy heroes. The other is conversion rates suck, and this is going to be a real problem. I think the vast majority of those two issues are actually just misunderstandings of how economies work. Whether it's real world or in-game, economies function on very similar principles, right? Supply and demand being one of the biggest rules of an economy. So, right now, why do heroes cost so much in the auction house? Because the black market exists. I know that's a crazy take for some people, but it's absolutely true. If I can go on the black market and spend $150 to get 20,000 Starry Gems, that means the cost of heroes in the auction house is going to reflect that there is a cheap option to get Starry Gems. Heroes cost way more. If you had to buy every single Starry Gem through the devs themselves, the value of the heroes doesn't change. And that's what I think people are misunderstanding. Right now, say a 20,000 Starry Gem copy of Wukong or whatever, that's a good copy of a hero, right? You want it, is valued around $150. That's why it costs around 20,000 Starry Gems, because that's the reflected black market value. If you had to buy those in-game, it doesn't make Wukong all of a sudden worth, 5 times as much, $750, because it's about $100 per 2,500 Starry Gems in-game, and $20 per 2,500 Starry Gems in the black market. It doesn't mean that Wukong is actually now worth $750 and everyone's going to pay $750 for that new 20,000 Starry Gem copy of Wukong. No. What's going to happen is that 20,000 Starry Gem of Wukong is going to correct itself down to $150 of Starry Gems in the new economy, right? So if the new economy is purchased entirely through DH Games and the black market essentially got shut down, he's not going to cost 20,000 Starry Gems anymore. He's going to cost 4,000 Starry Gems. Because that's a fifth of the cost. That's reflective of the difference between the black market value and in-game value, right? I think this is a concept people are grossly overlooking. They don't even see that that's what's going to happen. And if you've been playing at all, looking in the auction house, you've probably already noticed that hero prices have dropped quite a bit. Why? Because the black market is all of a sudden shaky. People don't know if they're going to be able to sell a bunch, how it's going to work out. A lot of Starry Gem sellers are kind of putting the brakes on for now, and because of that, hero prices have come down. And that's to be expected. You shouldn't be surprised by that. That is exactly what you would expect to happen in a situation where Starry Gems all of a sudden are more valuable. Right now, Starry Gem prices are massively inflated. They're not worth almost anything because the black market exists. With it gone, they are now much, much, much more valuable. Hero prices come down way, 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 way lower. That's not a bad thing. Another issue raised is conversions. Now, for whales, people say, whales are going to take months to convert the Starry Gems from a big sale. And again, I think they're missing the same key concept here with economics, that the heroes aren't going to cost the same in a world without the black market. Your 100,000 Starry Gem S-tier hero isn't going to cost you 100,000 Starry Gems anymore, because it's not worth it in the new economy. It will be worth around 20,000 Starry Gems. And if you're a whale with a 10,000, credit rating, that's 2 days. That's 2 days to convert that over. It's nothing. It will take no time at all. Now, will it take some time for the market to actually correct itself back to those levels? Sure, but it probably won't take that long. And either way, like I said, that makes the conversion rate for whales and older accounts not that big of an issue. The main issue is going to actually come from new accounts, right? A new whaling account is going to have some serious conversion rate issues, and that's the big problem I think DH Games needs to step on. Now, before we jump into that, let's jump into a little side tangent that I've seen some people saying, listen, DH Games, if you weren't so greedy, right, if you just cut your prices, this would solve all the problems. And again, I think this is just a basic misunderstanding of how economics works and how the black market functions in general. If DH Games decided right now they were going to cut all their prices to match the black market, right? we're going to match them. We're just going to match the black market. What do you think the black market's going to do? Are they just going to throw their hand, oh, I guess it's over for us, we'll quit? No. They're going to cut their prices to undercut DH Games again, and the problem goes nowhere. All DH Games essentially has done is slash their own revenue again for no reason. Why? I don't know. Who's going to go buy $150 of Starry Gems from DH Games if they can go buy the same amount, $30 of Starry Gems in the black market that equates to the same amount? It doesn't solve the problem at all. So this is, in my opinion, just a misinformed take on the whole issue. It doesn't solve the black market at all. So now, getting into conversion rates of newer accounts, because this is where I think DH Games needs to be very proactive if they want to, A, shut down the black market, which, again, it doesn't matter to me if it goes down or stays up. I'm not affected by it. I don't sell Starry Gems. I don't make any commissions on stuff like that, so it doesn't really affect me in any real way. I'm not worried about it being around. If it goes away, my feelings aren't hurt. If it stays, I guess it stays. It's just going to hurt DH Games' revenue a little bit, and that's honestly not the greatest thing for the longevity of the game. But conversion rates. This is where we have the main issue, right? Right now, the Starry Gem, like the whole black market, functions on the idea of thousands of bot accounts being run that never spend money in-game, that simply farm for hero copies, sell those hero copies, take all those Starry Gems, move them to an account, and then sell those Starry Gems. That's the whole problem. This is why they implemented the whole Prism Starry Gem conversion thingy, is to kind of slow that methodology down, where it's not as easy to convert and sell your Starry Gems back to main accounts. So, when it comes to early game whales, right now, the problem is your credit rating isn't very responsive to money spent in game. The reason I think it's not is because of the issue they had with chargebacks back in the day, right? People would just buy a bunch of Prism Starry Gems, convert them over because they got a huge credit rating. They would gift those Starry Gems, then they would refund the purchase, right? Ha, gotcha, nerds. It cost DH Games a lot of money to do that. Now, there's not like a tried and true guaranteed way to fix that issue if you make your credit rating dependent on money. However, I still think it is important. But what I would say is maybe, okay, take the time that it takes your credit rating to adjust based on the money you spent. You can stretch it a little bit, but I still think that money spent in game should be the primary driver of your credit rating going up and going up quickly. Because, like, for example, let's say a new account starts on a new server. They reach VIP 7 or 8. They're, $1,000, $2,000 deep into the game. They've got a bunch of Prism Starry Gems, but their credit rating is like 10 a day. Like, they can't use any of the Prism Starry Gems they have. They're stuck. That is not good for the game. I think that is actually bad for the game, for sure. Because you want your whales to be able to spend money. For sure. You want them to spend money, and you want them to be able to use the stuff they spent their money on quickly, because that makes them spend more money. You don't want them stuck in this weird loop of slow conversions. Like I said, the chargeback issue is always going to be an issue. I'm not really sure how you fix that. I'm not on DH Games' development team and privy to their inside discussions on that, but I still think that having a credit rating that's a little bit more reactive to how much money you spent isn't a bad thing. I think it's actually an all right deal, and it makes sense. It just simply makes sense. You could even make a secondary purchase in the game that's like a non-refundable purchase, like this one cannot be charged back, and it's to make your credit rating fluctuate violently with the amount of money you spend. That may sound crazy, but if you make an in-app purchase that is non-refundable, like this, you're purchasing this for its specific purpose, there is no refunds available for it, in that case, you could probably bypass a lot of the issues with the black market and how free-to-play accounts, just transfer or chargebacks. You don't want that. But for free-to-play accounts, this is where people get pretty upset. Like, well, if I'm a free-to-play account, my conversion rate sucks. I can't really build it up much, and I'm going to drop another hot take on you. That's okay. I don't think free-to-play accounts need a humongous conversion rate. The amount of time, statistically speaking, that a free-to-play account runs into an issue where they need to convert massive amounts of Starry Gems at a time, when they're not dealing with black market kind of areas and they're just playing the game normally, is pretty low, right? The odds that you get A-tier heroes and whatnot where you need to sell them and convert them is going to be a very, 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 very low chance. It's not something you need to have access to constantly. And also, even on the same token, in any game, any mobile game especially, spenders always have an edge in every area. That's just how the game functions. I don't think people should look at your credit rating any differently. A spender should have a much higher credit rating than a free-to-play player. If nothing else, it's more convenient. That's a good driver of spending, is the convenience factor of it. Free-to-play players, like I said, they don't need the massive conversion ratings. And even if they do come into a like, oh, I got super lucky and I got me an S-tier hero I don't want, I'm going to sell it and try to get someone new. If it takes you a couple of months to convert those Prism Starry Gems, I don't think you have much of a reason to be angry. And the reason I would say that is pretty simple. It's that everything on the free-to-play side takes longer. That's just the nature of free-to-play. I don't know why people would expect a free-to-play account to have access to the same liquidity of Prism Starry Gems that a spender should. I don't think that's really going to solve any problems. So that's kind of my take on the whole Starry Gem issue. Is it really an issue? I don't think so. I think if the black market shut down tomorrow, within a month or two, you would just see hero prices come down to reflect that change, and it wouldn't make almost any notable difference. The biggest issue is going to come from early game conversion rates for new accounts, and I think that's something DH Games should get on top of early. And like I said, there's different ways they can probably go about doing that. You're still going to run into issues with chargebacks if you have too volatile of a credit rating. Like I said, if you spend $100 and all of a sudden you can convert 2,500 Starry Gems a day, you know, what's to stop people from just doing that? Buying them, converting them, gifting them, and I'm out. Ha ha ha. Not great. Not great at all. That's kind of a rough one. So I'm not really sure how they get around that buyback issue that they've already been in before. The credit rating being too reactive to spending in game can cause issues with that, and I don't think that's a good thing. Could you tie it more to hero power level? I mean, to an extent, but I still think money spent is probably the best way to do it. And I don't know. I would say the only thing I could really think of is a non-refundable purchase, right? A one-time purchase that is, you cannot refund this. Like, you click a check mark, I agree. Once this money is gone and I have purchased this little coupon that says my exchange rate is going to reflect the money spent in the game, and this is just what it's going to be. I think a lot of whales, early game whales, would buy that immediately. It doesn't have to be a super expensive purchase. I mean, but whatever. As long as it makes their money spent in game easy to liquefy and use in game. I think that's the big issue. And like I said, if it's non-refundable, it's going to at least punch the buyback crowd in the face, right? Essentially. Because they're going to be, they can't purchase that and then, you know, do a chargeback. Like, oh, listen to me, I'm good. It'll stop some of it. May not stop all of it, but it would stop some of it. That's the way I'm kind of looking at it, because I know a lot of people want to be on the side of the player, and all corporations are bad, and all developers are bad. That's just not true. They're a business. And if you ran DH Games' business right now, and you were not actively trying to shut down the black market, you're a bad business owner. I know that might be hard to hear, but that's just the truth. DH Games' #1 priority in the game right now should be to squash the black market and crush it and get it gone. Because that is cutting directly into all of their profits. The less they make profits, the less incentive they have to do updates to the game, to make new content, because why would they? All their money is going to other people and not themselves. Their #1 priority, in my opinion, should be to crush the black market. If they do crush the black market and it's gone entirely, like I said, if they stay on top of things in a good way in managing conversion rates, managing the chargeback issues they may encounter, I think the game is going to be in an absolutely fine position, and I don't think it's going to hit people as hard as they think it will. Because like I said, the basic principle of economics, supply and demand, is going to say, if my Starry Gems now cost 5 times more than they did before, the things I purchase with them are going to cost about 20% of what they used to cost. Because the value of what you're buying isn't changing, the value of the currency is what's changing. And that's really, like I said, that's the basic understanding that I have of the market. And like I said, you've already noticed that if you've jumped on and looked in the auction house, you've already seen prices of heroes going down a little bit. And this is with the black market still essentially there, but unstable, right? It's sketchy. So that's a thing. Another thing I guess you could do, DH game side of things, this would scare some people, but I think fear is a good way to motivate people not to do something. Don't get me wrong. I think that it's actually a very effective strategy. What I would say is, like, DH Games has access to all of the auction house They know purchases that go through. They know who buys what, where it goes, what accounts are grossly overpaying for hero copies. Like, oh, this guy sold a C- hero for 400 Starry Gems. I wonder why. Well, they're simply moving Starry Gems around probably to sell them. So if they got a little bit, like I would say, like a team together, a banning team together. I know that sounds like a rough thing to talk about, but true, if they did, if they got like a team of people that looked over the auction house and watched for patterns of people who were doing this consistently and started to ban the accounts that were moving Starry Gems like this, you know, I'm not talking about like doing it once or twice, like between your own two accounts, but the people that do this egregiously, like it's obvious you're moving the amount of Starry Gems and then they're just getting gifted away from another account. Ban those accounts. And if you really wanted to stop, like I said, like shut the black market down, you would ban the account that received the Starry Gems as well. Now, that sounds scary to some people, like, whoa, 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 what? No, I don't want that. But the truth of the matter is, if you're not buying illegal Starry Gems, you would never be banned. But people that were taking that risk of spending on the black market, all of a sudden saying, oh, hey, I could get banned and lose everything doing this, they wouldn't go that route. They would rather spend the money in-game instead of in the shadier black market area. So that is another way they could fix the issue, is be more aggressive with banning accounts. Now, I know that sounds, like I said, it sounds harsh. But again, you have to realize, when it comes to an issue where you're directly attacking the revenue of a developer, if they respond aggressively to that problem, you can't be upset by that. That makes sense from a business perspective, to aggressively crush the competition. It's just, that's a business principle. You don't let the competition just undercut you forever for free. You crush them. Make sure they can't do it again. And like I said, just the uncertainty of not knowing whether or not you would be banned by getting a bunch of gifted Starry Gems, because no one can gift you Starry Gems without your consent. You can't just be like, oh, sure, I'll take them. You have to accept the Starry Gems coming in. You have to do it like 2 times, confirm that you're wanting these Starry Gems. So you are complicit, I would say, if you're purchasing Starry Gems and they find out that you're getting gifted a bunch of stuff like that. Like, I understand. I understand exactly what would happen there. So could there be an area where false bans take place? Maybe. And I would say they just need to be really on top of that with like a legitimate, like an actual team that's devoted to this cause. Because if they get the black market under control and it's like gone, it's gotten rid of, DH Games profits are going to go up. They're not going to go down. Because right now, every purchase made on the black market is money gone from DH Games' pocket. It's just money they don't get. And that's not a good way to punish a company. I don't think people realize that either. They think, oh, if I just buy everything Starry Gems on the black market, I can say big middle finger to DH Games and they're going to change their policies. No. What the most likely course is, what's going to happen is they just stop making updates for the game and shut the game down, and now you don't have a game to play. So I don't think supporting a dev is a bad thing. I think that if the black market goes away, the player base will be fine. It will take a little bit of work on DH Games' side to make sure that conversion rates are taken care of properly, that the black market isn't just uncertain, but is mostly shut down entirely and not functional. If they can do those things, I think Idle Heroes is in a fine place. I have no qualms with spending money in-game. I don't mind doing that at all. And like I said, if the value of heroes in the auction house was actually low because everything had to be bought through DH Games, it's not going to cost me any more money to play the game than it would normally. The reason it costs people more money to buy through DH Games is strictly because the black market exists. That is the only reason that the auction house is inflated the way that it is. So that's just my take on it. Now you know. It went a little longer than I expected it to. I didn't expect to be a 20-minute video about the auction house and Starry Gems, but it's an issue a lot of people are struggling with. They're upset about it, and I just think it's mostly just a misunderstanding of what's going to happen if the black market goes away. People think that prices are going to stay the same, and now all of a sudden they're going to spend $700 million to get the same hero they would a couple of months ago, and that's just not true. The heroes are going to drop in price substantially, and it's going to be reflected by how much the difference between the black market and the in-game market was. So they're going to just meet themselves where perceived value still is. I don't think that's an issue. I just don't think it's going to be a problem. Conversion rates, there is reason to be a little bit skeptical of that, but again, I think that's only for new accounts. I don't think older accounts are going to struggle at all with the conversion rate issues, because like I said, after the market corrects itself for the new price of heroes, even buying S-tier heroes isn't going to take you many days at all as a whale to reallocate your Prism Starry Gems to Starry Gems. It just won't be that bad. People are definitely overselling, I think, the problems. Some of it may be just a misunderstanding. Like I said, they just didn't know, and they were like, "Oh, yeah, this sounds bad on paper." I don't think many people are doing it out of like willfully lying, like, "Oh, this is terrible for the game," even though they know it's really not. I think most people just don't understand how the economy is going to rebalance if the black market goes away. Once you understand that, you're not going to be all that worried, because you know that that's just how the entire world functions. Every economy on Earth follows the same principles, essentially. So if the supply of your Starry Gems goes way down, the demand for them goes way up, which means their perceived value in game is going to go way up, which means anything you buy with them's value goes down, right? They're going to be cheaper to buy. Not that the hero copies are worth less money, they're still worth the same dollar amount. Their perceived value is still the same, it's just the cost of acquiring them is what fluctuates. So there we go. That's the quick rundown on my opinions on the new Starry Gem change. I think it's, honestly, I think it's a good thing for the game long term. I know that might be another crazy hot take, but if you can crush the black market, it's just more money for DH Games. The more money they have, the more time they can put into focusing on new content, new updates, fixing issues. Will they? I don't know, but it gives them the opportunity to do that. And it definitely gives you a lot more, I guess you would say, what's the word? I don't know. There's a word for it, and it's in my mind. I don't remember what it is. I was trying to use a smart word. I don't have it. But you should feel a little safer in the longevity of DH Games, a little more secure in their future to continue rolling out updates and content. Because like I said, if the black market stays and flourishes and keeps draining Idle Heroes money passively, eventually the servers just shut down. That's what happens. They're not going to like do dramatic things like cutting all their prices to make people happy, because it's not going to work. The black market will just cut their prices to match, and then you're going to end up in the same issue where DH Games is making less money, and they just shut the whole game down regardless. Now, if you're the jaded kind of person who's like, that's what I want, this is not the place for you. You need to figure something out. There's something in your life that is very bad. You shouldn't be that upset about a video game at all anyways. Like, you've got some priorities you got to sort out, my friend. But yeah, I think the more money that goes into DH Games' pocket, the better it is for the actual players who play the game. There's my take. Now you know it. And I guess, I don't know, we'll see what comes of it. We may have to make some adjustments to the Starry Gems series I kicked off, because that's how I was going to run the series. Not really a super viable thing to do right now due to the fact that the exchange rates are very bad over there. It may just become another VIP series. Is that fine? I think so. I'm okay with it. I'm not going to be upset by having to spend a little money on the account. I was going to spend money on it anyway. If that money goes to DH Games, so be it. We'll see what happens. But that is going to be it for today, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you didn't, let me know. Let me know your opinions on the Starry Gem situation. But my challenge to you is do it from a perspective that kind of looks at the whole situation, both past and future. Don't just do it like, oh, this sucks right now, I hate the update. That's not a very informed take. It's not constructive either. Try to actually look at what would actually happen in the future and see if maybe taking a more foresighted look into the problem, if maybe your ideas converge a little bit more with mine than they do currently. Because right now, the overwhelming consensus on the internet is everyone hates the update, but I think it's just mostly a misunderstanding. That's generally what I would truly believe it to be, is just not understanding the economic principles that drive economies. That said, that's it for today, guys. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, don't forget, smash that thumbs up button, show your support, and I will see you guys in the next one.